So I bet you've heard that it takes two to tango. Well, when it comes to saving a relationship, that is not entirely true. You can reignite the spark in your relationship, even if your partner's already called it quits. I'm going to share with you the powerful steps to repair a relationship post-breakup. We've all been there. Your partner walks out the door, leaving you heartbroken and confused. You're kind of trying to wonder where it all went wrong and if there's any chance of fixing things. I know how painful and confusing that feels. And it can feel like it's time to just give up and walk away. But the hard truth is that doing nothing right now is actually only going to prove to your partner that ending things was the right call. It's going to show them that you're not willing to have the drive and to make the changes that are needed to save your relationship. The stakes are really high here. The good news is that you have the power to turn this around, even if you feel like you're the only one fighting for your relationship. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through the essential steps to focus on your growth in order to start turning your relationship around. And trust me, that's the secret to winning your partner back and building a stronger, healthier bond than ever before. So let's dive in. So post-breakup is actually a crucial time for the future of the relationship, because the truth is that your partner likely voiced their concerns for a while before deciding to end the relationship. If these issues have been building up and haven't been fully addressed, then your partner has probably felt pretty unheard and pretty hopeless along the way, leading to walking away. By giving up now, you're actually confirming your partner's fears that change isn't possible. Essentially, your partner's going to see that you're not really wanting to change and grow yourself. You're only wanting to do it temporarily, or if there's a promise that they'll stick around. They'll see that the change within you is actually conditional on whether they're around. However, if you start working on the areas that need improvement, regardless of whether the relationship is reconciled or not, you're going to show your willingness to grow, which actually will challenge your partner's current fears and start to shift their perception. Because they're going to think, I thought that they weren't going to change, but they're actually doing it. Even though the relationship is over, they're still willing to change and grow. And that challenges their current perception of you. Let's talk about why it's so crucial to acknowledge the past hurt and taking the responsibility for your role in the relationship's breakdown. And I know that that's not easy to start thinking about, and it's definitely not an easy conversation to have with your partner. But trust me, sweeping all of those issues under the rug or playing the blame game is only going to breed resentment and further damage the trust between you and your partner. So yeah, I get it. The idea of sitting down with your partner right now and bringing up all of that past pain and tough topics can feel really intimidating. But the thing is that starting to have these open and honest conversations is the only way to start creating a safe space for both of you to feel heard, to feel understood, and to start repairing the relationship. Think about it this way. When you ignore the past hurts or refuse to own your part of the problem, you essentially tell your partner that their feelings don't really matter, that their perspective isn't really valid. And that in itself is a surefire way to make them feel unappreciated, unheard, and ultimately the reason why they would be unwilling to give the relationship another shot. If at a minimum you're unwilling to take the high road and start looking at your role in the breakdown of the relationship, then ultimately there's no wonder why they feel hopeless, that the relationship doesn't really have a chance. So how do you start going about having these tough talks? Start by setting aside a time and a place where you can both feel comfortable, somewhere that's neutral between you both, free from distractions, and come prepared with an idea of what you want to discuss. Also come with the mindset that you are open to hear your partner's side of the story. Take the time beforehand to think about your role and the responsibility that you take in what has happened within the relationship. I did a whole video on the difference between blame and responsibility, which I'll link to above. But essentially, what you're looking to do is to start showing your partner that you are willing to take responsibility for your part of the relationship breakdown. Getting out of that habit of pointing fingers and making accusations. Now, for example, instead of saying, you always prioritize work over our relationship, you could say something like, I was thinking about the work situation in the relationship and how I always took you working hard as something personal against me. And I always made that situation about me rather than actually talking to you and understanding how you feel about the situation. I took it as a dig at me. I took it as a shot at me. You see the difference? That's taking responsibility for your own feelings and your own perspective on the relationship without pointing the finger of blame at your partner. By focusing on your own emotions, you're opening the door for a much more productive dialogue rather than putting your partner on the spot and making them feel defensive. Another key aspect of acknowledging past hurt is being willing to apologize sincerely where necessary. This shows your partner that you're not just paying lip service, that you actually genuinely understand how your actions may have contributed to the relationship's decline. A genuine, heartfelt apology can go a long way in rebuilding trust and demonstrating your commitment to making things right. It's taking responsibility. Remember, the goal here isn't to rehash every single argument. It's about creating a foundation of emotional safety, open communication, and mutual understanding. By doing this, you're setting the stage for a stronger, much more resilient partnership moving forward. And that in itself will give your partner some hope that things can be different. Again, this is a step-by-step process, and this isn't solved in one conversation. So as you do move forward in this, keep that in mind. It may not be easy, but it's an essential step in growing as a person and showing your partner that you have the ability to change and to grow. And in order to have these conversations in a very powerful way, the key to unlocking the power of these conversations is learning and developing your emotional intelligence. You know what they say, the first step to solving a problem is admitting that you have it. And when it comes to saving your relationship, this actually means taking a hard look in the mirror and getting real with yourself about your own emotions and your own behaviors. And, I know that self-reflection can be scary and it can be hard to do, and it's a really uncomfortable place. But it's much easier to point the finger at your partner and blame them for the issues in the relationship. But the truth is that you only have control over what you do. And if you do want to have any chance of reconciling and developing the relationship into a thriving relationship, you need to start by understanding your own role in the breakup. So how do you do that? Well, it actually all starts with tuning into your own emotions and your own thoughts. Because once we start to develop the awareness of our thoughts and our feelings, we can start understanding the lens that we see the world in. Because the lens that we see the world in has a massive impact on the way that we react in conversations and our actions with our partner. So it's important day to day to start paying attention, whether it's journaling or just being mindful day after day to how you're feeling. Are you angry? Are you sad? Are you anxious? And more importantly, why? Start understanding the root causes. Get to the root cause of that emotion. When you start to understand the roots of your own emotions, it becomes a lot easier to be able to recognize them in yourself, but also to be able to communicate them to your partner in a healthy way. So instead of lashing out or shutting down, you can start to express yourself calmly and clearly. And this starts to feed into the conversations that you have with your partner in the future. So for example, the more you start to recognize your thoughts and feelings, the more you can start to be able to reflect that to your partner and say, hey, I think about that situation that we had in the cafe that time. And I think at the time I was feeling very angry and hurt and upset. And I don't think that I really understood that at the time, but now I'm starting to reflect on it. And I understand that I expressed it in a really unhealthy way. This is taking the responsibility for your actions in the past, but also showing your partner that you are developing that knowledge of understanding your own feelings and healthier ways to deal with them. And the thing is with this is that this self-reflection, not only does it start to help you understand yourself, but it also starts to help you develop that empathy for your partner's perspective. We all experience the world differently, and what may seem like no big deal to you could be a huge trigger for them. So the more you start to ask yourself questions and reflect on your own emotions, the more you can start to understand how emotions work and maybe what your partner has been feeling during this time. And if you are interested in learning more skills and tips to start turning your relationship around, then make sure you are subscribed to the channel for new videos every single week. And this is why in future conversations with your partner, it's important to start asking questions and really listen to your partner's responses. Start to actually try to put yourself in their shoes and see things from their point of view. As they're talking and they're explaining their feelings during these conversations, start to summarize what they've said back to them to make sure that you're understanding them correctly. So for example, let's say your partner has been feeling neglected for the past 6 months. Instead of getting defensive or brushing it off, try to say something like, I can understand why you would be feeling neglected during that part of the relationship. I had been very upset, and I think that the way that I expressed it to you was not healthy and had an impact in the way that you would have been feeling. Is that kind of along the right lines? So by validating their feelings and showing that you're making an effort to try to understand where they're coming from, you're creating a safe space to be able to open that communication up and for your partner to be able to express themselves. That alone is the foundation of a really healthy relationship. And of course, self-reflection and emotional intelligence aren't skills that are developed overnight. They take time, they take practice, but the payoff ultimately is being able to cultivate a much stronger, healthier relationship. When you're able to hear yourself and your own feelings and be able to take the time to empathize and understand your partner's feelings, this gives a much stronger bond between you both. It's not about your partner not being able to feel what they feel or you not being able to feel what you feel. It's about both of you being able to feel safe enough to be able to express how you're feeling. And that in itself is a very healing moment. This is called affect labeling, which is where you're able to label the feeling that you're feeling, and that actually reduces the impact of the emotion that it has on you psychologically. So this is all well and good, but what about those deep-seated issues that seem impossible to overcome? Those patterns of behavior that have plagued your relationship? Well, if you want to rebuild trust, then it's important to start to prove that this time around is going to be different. You know, it's very easy to talk the talk, but you've got to walk the walk. So it's important to start being consistent. You can't just make some grand gestures and expect everything to be magically fixed in your relationship. Genuine growth takes time, effort, and a lot of patience. So at first, your partner is not going to trust you. And this is why it's such a crucial time to continue to be consistent, to grow and to change the way you communicate, the way you talk, and the way you start to do things. But be able to do it through the hard times, because your partner's trust is going to be at a minimum. So what's likely to happen is that actually things get worse between you and your partner because they've been holding in all of these feelings for all this time, not able to express them, and only now they're able to express them. So all of these feelings are going to start coming out in a very big way. And this is why it's so important to show the consistency, to show that you have enough emotional intelligence and empathy to be able to listen to what your partner's saying and to be able to take the responsibility at the same time. Because right now, if you start to fall back into old habits, all of that's going to do is prove to your partner that you weren't changing, you weren't ready to start taking responsibility for your role. So being consistent during this time is really, really crucial. But along the way, be transparent with your partner about your journey. Don't try to hide your struggles or pretend like you're some perfect person. You know, be honest about the work that you're doing and the progress that you're making. Share your insights into things as you're taking responsibility and understanding yourself, but also share your challenges and your victories along the way. This is a really important part of the journey, to be able to be open and honest and not hide things from your partner. And here's the thing, this isn't about just winning your partner back. It's about becoming the best version of yourself for your own sake as well as theirs. When you invest in your own personal growth, you're not just improving your relationship, you're improving your entire life. Developing the skills to become a stronger, more resilient, more emotionally intelligent person is a real life skill. And that's a gift that keeps on giving, no matter what happens with your partner. And again, your partner is going to be skeptical at first, and that's okay. They've been hurt before, and they really want to see some concrete evidence that things are actually going to change. So that's why it's important to stay the course and keep putting in the work, because eventually they will start to come around and they will start to understand that your changes are true and real. They'll see the effort that you're making and the progress that you're achieving, and they'll start to believe in the possibility of a brighter future together. So if you're serious about saving your relationship, don't just focus on grand gestures and big promises. Focus on the little things, the daily habits and the behaviors that show your partner that you're committed to growth and change. Be honest, be transparent, and be patient. But most of all, believe in yourself and the power of growth. Because with time and effort, you can rebuild that trust that's been broken and start to create a relationship that's stronger, deeper, and more fulfilling than ever. The question is, can a relationship be saved after a breakup? The members that I work with have all heard really similar things. One member that I work with had actually been separated for 6 months before recently shopping for new house keys with his partner. So it's important to learn the right tools to start making real changes within yourself and then be able to communicate those changes masterfully to your partner in the right way. And this is what I work on with my Ultra Normal members. So if you do want a deeper dive into all of this, then I invite you to join me on my free relationship bootcamp, where you'll learn the tools to start turning your relationship around, whether it's during a tough time or even post-breakup. Click on the link in the description to take the next step. You know, relationships involve significant investments of time, energy, and emotion. Your partner didn't want to leave without considering the value of everything that's been built before. So if they see genuine changes that they have wanted for a long time, they will start to then recognize the potential for the relationship and start to see the path forward. You know, your partner's wants didn't change overnight. All they did was make a decision to avoid more disappointment. So deep down, your partner has been and will continue to root for you to change. Trust is always broken emotionally. So consistent and meaningful change helps to rebuild that trust. And when your partner starts to see tangible progress, even from afar, even in small glimpses, that feeling of hopelessness starts to slowly turn to curiosity and eventually to a renewed interest. And this has happened to all of the members that I've been working with. So right now, your partner doesn't see a path forward because there are no changes. They'll only see that path forward if they see change. And that needs to happen regardless of the breakup or not. And changes needed for a relationship are not just about winning your partner back. They're about building healthier relationships, period. Making changes within yourself and growing within yourself and how you approach relationships will benefit all of your future relationships. Not just romantic ones, but friendships and with colleagues as well. You know, we sometimes fall for the illusion that we need to wait for the right partner. But the truth is that all relationships require the exact same set of skills to make them work. There's a quote that really resonates with me, which is, you cannot solve problems with the same thinking used to create them. So by choosing to not change and to not grow, that's the same pattern that everyone falls into when a breakup happens. But right now, this is the most crucial time for your partner because they are going to see whether you are just all lip service or whether you are actually committed to making a change. So by giving up on changing, they're going to have all of their worries confirmed, and that's going to prove to them that you weren't ever going to change for real. Ultimately, turning around a relationship is about learning the right principles and the right skills to take them from the brink of breakup all the way up to thriving, and it takes time. And if you want to learn more about the principles of cultivating great relationships, then I will leave you with this video right here. I'll see you over there.